entire human race. If we believe there's even a 1% chance that he is our enemy, we have to take it as an absolute certainty.
The greatest gladiator match in the history of the world. God versus man.
Hey guys, welcome to Critic and Fan, and wow, the time is finally here to talk about Batman v Superman. This movie was announced, 3 years ago? I think it was 3, maybe 2 years ago. There has been maybe twice in my life where I've had man tears from a movie, and I remember one of those times was at Comic-Con. I didn't go to Comic-Con, but I saw the video of when Zack Snyder introduced the concept of Batman fighting Superman. And I remember watching that on YouTube when the Superman symbol comes up on the screen and then the Bat symbol come up behind it. And I remember losing my mind. My eyes almost tripped for a second. I was just thinking to myself, wow, this is real. Like, this is going to be happening. And because as a kid, I've only seen cartoon versions of Batman and Superman being together. And I never thought that I would actually see them on screen together for the first time. And now this is here. This is finally happening. And wow, this movie is, well, there's a lot to talk about for sure.
I thought the movie was great. I'm excited because, I'm a huge Batman fan. I was as a kid in preschool, my mom made me a homemade Batman costume. I had the Batmobile for a bed. So this, I'm excited. Batman and Superman, v Superman, whatever. I was ready for it. I'm like, okay, let's have this because I used to watch the Justice League stuff all the time on cartoons. Justice League Unlimited. I thought they were great. And then this comes out, I'm excited.
And the hype for this movie is real. I mean, we got two titans punching it out, fighting, and and this movie has a lot of promise with it. They promised us Wonder Woman, they spoiled Doomsday, but and you got Lex Luthor in this movie, so there's no way that DC can mess this up, right? And for me, I thought I was disappointed.
I was not disappointed.
How were you not disappointed?
Okay. Earlier this week, we watched Man of Steel. Not the best Superman movie. It was passable.
It's all right.
It was enjoyable. And so, I thought it was kind of boring-ish, but this one comes along, and Ben Affleck in this film just upped everyone's game, I think. I thought, the guy who played Batman, what's his name?
You forgot Batman's name?
No, the guy who played Superman.
Oh,
Superman.
Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill? I thought he upped his game from Man of Steel. I didn't really care for him in it, but in this one, I thought he was so much better and he was so much more conflicted about being Superman.
In Man of Steel, I thought that Henry Cavill was he did a good job as Superman, but he wasn't like Christopher Reeves type good. And in this movie, you do see more emotion in Superman, and you're right. I do think Ben Affleck does kind of bring that out of him more, and that is one big, humongous highlight that I have for this movie is Ben Affleck. I was one of those naysayers that when I read the news on Twitter, Ben Affleck cast as Batman, I just couldn't believe it because you automatically think of Daredevil, you automatically think of Geely, you automatically think of just his Boston accent, and I just wasn't sold at all on the idea of Ben Affleck, and I was a naysayer, and I ate a lot of crow watching because he's really good in this movie, and he does a good job playing an older Batman. And you do see him, damaged a bit because you do see bits of his past, the Robin suit, how the Joker written all over his suit. So you see that he has some issues with that kind of storyline that maybe we'll see later on in the cinematic universe. But just other things in general, you just see that this guy has just dealt and has seen so much. And Ben Affleck brings that to this character, and it's a Batman that we haven't seen before. I thought Christian Bale is an amazing Batman, even though he has that pretty growling voice. And I thought Michael Keaton is really great as well. Val Kilmer, George Clooney. But, this Ben Affleck version of Batman is for sure going to be one of the best ones that we've seen on screen in a while. And I'm looking forward to his solo movies. And he does bring his acting game up a lot better for everybody else. And the acting in this movie is superb. I think the only drawback for this movie, really, for acting is, I would say, Lex Luthor. I wasn't really sold on him.
Yeah, Lex Luthor, he was a bit seemed a little bit out of place for the rest of the film because he didn't Zack Snyder has his vision, and everyone's usually more brooding type, and he's like the only guy who isn't. And so it was a bit, different, but I still thought he was better than, I can't believe I'm going to say this. What's the guy from,
Don't say Smallville.
No, Superman Returns.
Oh, Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, I thought he was better than Kevin Spacey, because Kevin Spacey, all he was a reboot of the guy who played him in the first Superman movie. And they were just a loan shark. Lex Luthor was just a loan shark who wanted land, build homes to make money. That is the worst Lex Luthor idea ever. So this one right here, this is like one for the modern age, where Lex Luthor has like a Google type, place. Have everything going on there.
It's like he is a guy that is trying to make a startup in Silicon Valley, or he's trying to make a new business in San Francisco. Like, just the way they present Lex Luthor's character, it looks like he would be in charge of like Uber or something. He's just very like, hi, pleasure to meet you.
That is just way better than a loan shark, like a land shark, and he's like, oh, I want land to sell so I can make money. That is lame. This is a lot better, even though he was a little bit too comical, I thought.
Well, the thing about his character is that I liked, okay, he is a little jumpy, just like, hi. He is like that a lot in the movie. He is more of that when he's with people, because it's kind of a persona, even though it is kind of his personality. But it's just kind of like, "Hi, Senator, yeah." But when he's by himself, that gets dialed down a whole lot less. And there are certain elements of his character that did work for me, and then there are certain elements that didn't work for me. Like a lot, but most of it is like his twitches that he has, his like nervousness, and he's just kind of over it. I mean, he goes for it. He's very dedicated, and he does go for it. But I don't know. I just can't buy him as Lex Luthor's son. And I just wish we would have seen what the old man was like, the original Lex Luthor would have been like. But that being said, hopefully they can learn from this mistake, and hopefully in the next movie they can maybe dial it down a little bit more. Because now he's exposed now. Now everybody knows what he's like. So that personality of being, hi, might be lost. Maybe in the next movie? I don't know. But another highlight of this movie for acting, and as well as just screen presence, is Wonder Woman. I really liked Gal Gadot. I thought
she was great, especially when she was fighting. I liked her the most when she was fighting.
I do feel Wonder Woman's character is at a place when she's not in costume, because she does have her own agenda, but you don't really know what her agenda really is.
Yeah, so I said they probably should have released the movie before.
Yeah.
Just so you get to know her.
And so, but for sure, when she's in fighting mode, she got the most cheers and applause in my theater. I'm guessing yours too, probably.
Yeah, there were some cheers, and my friend Britt, she wants to be Wonder Woman now for Halloween. She's already planning the whole costume and everything.
Another great choice for this movie is Jeremy Irons as Alfred. He's very solid, and he's a very different version of Alfred that we've seen before. And I still think Michael Caine's Alfred is still a very good Alfred from the Christopher Nolan trilogy. And they're very different, so I don't think you really can compare the two, because they're just two opposite ends of the stream, where Alfred was just more like, just the mentor guy, and he full of wisdom. But Jeremy Irons' version, he's not just the guy that he's not just the voice of reason, but he actually helps Batman fly the Batwing from the office. He helps him to see certain things through computer screens. So he seems to be more actively engaged with Batman, and as he goes to fight crime. And so this version of Alfred, I'm really excited to see what they do with him the next couple movies.
Everything surrounding Ben Affleck and the Batman character, I thought was really, really good. Everything about him and his whole thing going on, it was really, really well done. Yeah,
well, it seemed like half the movie was Batman's movie, and I know it's Batman v Superman, but every time that he's on screen, you just feel more invested in his portions of the story than Superman's, than Lex Luthor's, and anyone else's, really. And there's a lot of potential writing on this movie, because you have all these great characters and all these great actors, but just this movie kind of seems to get lost in trying to be a big, massive setup for the rest of the DC cinematic universe. You have Wonder Woman's storyline, you have Batman's storyline, you have the politics of Superman, and the whole beginning of Batman v Superman is just the question, should there be a Superman? And I think that alone should be like its own movie of, should there be a Superman on Earth, and does he answer to somebody, does he not? And there's this whole story arc of that, but it just feels so crammed in with the Batman story, the Wonder Woman story, the Lex Luthor story, and I don't know, you just kind of get lost a little bit. I mean, it is decently easy to follow, but just so many storylines together, it's just kind of a mess. I get it, DC is trying to catch up with Marvel, and this movie kind of felt to me a mixture of Age of Ultron, where it's setting up, you know, a whole bunch of the movies, as well as Amazing Spider-Man 2, where there's just a lot of characters trying to set up other stuff too, and also Spider-Man 3, the Sam Raimi version. There's just a whole bunch of characters in here that there's just not enough time to flesh these characters out, which I'm actually happy that there's going to be a director's cut. I don't know, I'm hoping that the director's cut, which is going to be a half hour extra longer, I just hope that it will flesh these characters out a lot more, because I wasn't invested as much to Wonder Woman and all of them, because I love Wonder Woman as a character, but just seeing her on screen, I just hope there just wasn't too much extra to her character that made me want to care, really. Because when she shows up, it's kind of like, yeah, she's here! Alright, like, let's go fight some bad guys, but there's no reason really as to why she's there.
I was fine with that, dude. I didn't have a problem with her. Just like, because they're slowly introducing people. That's fine. And she is one of the big three, so she was sprinkled throughout. You don't find out too much about her, but they are saving that for the movie, I think, her own movie. And the whole fight scene, I thought was fine when she showed up. I didn't have a problem with that. And neither did any of the crowd. Everyone else in the theater had no problem at that time when she shows up and starts kicking Doomsday's butt.
Yeah, and that's another thing too, is they shoehorn Doomsday into this movie, but we already knew that because it was on the trailers. But and he basically was like Venom in Spider-Man 3, where he's just in it for the last 5 minutes, just for we can have some big baddie for people to fight, for our three heroes to fight. And that was just lazy to me, I thought. One of the aspects that I thought was lazy about this movie was how they introduced the other members of the Justice League. Because Batman basically just sends Wonder Woman an email that basically could have just said, here is the rest of the Justice League. Because she opens this email and it's just all this footage of the Justice League that he's been eyeing and surveilling for this past while. And it was just such a lazy excuse to just shoehorn people in. Now, the videos that they show these people are kind of cool. I dug, you know, seeing certain characters of the Justice League and just seeing what they were doing in the surveillance video. But I was just thinking to myself, you couldn't have thought of a better way to introduce these characters. It easily could have been an end credit scene for me. And just like that, there are a lot of other scenes in this movie that I felt didn't really need to be in the movie. There's another character that pops up in this movie that was in Man of Steel, and he's in the movie for like 3 to 4 minutes, and I won't spoil who he is, but it's another reason of why he's in this movie. He does absolutely nothing to further along the story. There's other scenes in this movie where you just kind of feel that they're out of place, that, I mean, once again, with the director's cut, maybe it all makes sense, but for the theatrical release, it just feels, there's a lot of scenes that just feel like they shouldn't be there at all.
Yeah, I agree. There are some scenes where it does feel out of place. You know, the pacing is a little off. It feels like they jump from one place to another without, you know, knowing why, how they get there. That does happen a little bit, but it really doesn't take you away from the film.
Yes, it does. It totally took me out of the film.
Okay, I was there with other people, and like, there's a whole audience who, like, it didn't take everyone out of the film. Like, it would take, yes, some, but not everybody.
I didn't tell you this, but I almost fell asleep a couple times in this movie while I was watching it. And honestly, the people next to me, I was sitting next to a couple of girls on my left-hand side, and their eyes were kind of halfway closed. There were a couple of guys on the right side of me that they're stuffing popcorn down their mouths, and they're kind of like, oh, that's cool, you know? But for the most part of the movie, nobody was really into it. From what I've seen, there was no claps, cheers, anything like that, except for Wonder Woman. But I don't know, just watching this movie, the first half of this movie, my eyes were starting to shut down. Like, dude, can we just please do something? Can this thing move along? I loved Ben Affleck's Batman. That's what kept me emotionally invested in this movie. Because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have cared for anything else. And saying that, there was just so much potential that they just didn't deliver on. The one thing that they really did deliver on was the fight. It only lasts.
That was awesome.
It lasts for maybe 8 to 10 minutes, and I asked you. We were watching Man of Steel, where Superman was fighting Zod, and they were just smashing each other with the buildings. And I asked you, I was like, how could Batman really fight against Superman? Because when Zod fights him, they go to town and they're just smashing. Everything's falling apart, getting destroyed. But they execute it very well when Batman fights him. And the reason why they fight each other, I'm okay with, you know.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with the reason why they fight against each other. You do understand why Batman doesn't like Superman, but the reason why Superman fights Batman was a different route that I was expecting from the trailers. It's a different spin on it, and I was like, okay, the reason why you fight Batman, I'm okay with that. But when they do throw down, it's 8 minutes of just, wow, this is actually happening.
It's a straight up brawl.
Yeah, and I was fanboying out right there. I was just thinking to myself, okay, Superman just friggin' threw Batman away over there. Whoa, Batman just punched and kicked Superman right there. And there's just a whole bunch of things happening in these quick 8 minutes. But then that's the only thing, is it only lasts for 8 minutes, because if you remember the title of this movie, it's Batman v Superman and then Dawn of Justice. So once you get to that first fight part, it just transitions to the Dawn of Justice portion, and then that's kind of like where it gets, I think for me, kind of goes even more downhill.
I don't know, 'cause after that, we have that whole part where in the trailer, if you remember, Batman takes out a bunch of guys inside a giant warehouse. After that happens after that big fight between them, and that's one of the best fight scenes in the whole movie. Is when Batman takes on a bunch of guys in a warehouse. That did not disappoint.
Well, that's probably the best we've ever seen Batman in action, because Christian Bale's Batman was kind of more stiff. Michael Keaton's was kind of stiff a little bit.
That was the costume, not his fault.
Yeah. So just to see Ben Affleck, just doing his thing and just running, and he's doing things that you just never thought you would actually see Batman do to these guys, and it is a treat to see. And of course, when all three of them are fighting Doomsday together, that was pretty cool to see as well. Even though Doomsday,
I'll admit, he looked a little too CG.
He looked like the Cave Troll in the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google the Cave Troll. It looks just like him, and I feel like Doomsday could have been saved for a different story.
I can see what you're saying, and I can see why you say that, but I thought it was cool. I mean, he looked a little too CG, but I was fine with it. I know some people have a problem with Batman killing people, but growing up, I remember watching Batman and Batman Returns. He killed people in that one, and no one cared. People died around him all the time. He was like a psycho in that one, and he enjoyed it. There's some times where he's killing someone and he has a smile on his face. No one complained. So him killing people now, it isn't a huge issue. I mean, I don't see what the problem is. It looked good. It wasn't gory or anything. People died.
So, based off what we said, what would you say? Would you definitely recommend this movie to be watched in theaters, DVD, rental?
I say go watch this in theaters. I give this an 8 out of 10.
I would say go and watch it in theaters, because, I mean, this is movie history. This is comic book history. And so that's something you shouldn't miss out on, because whether you like it or hate it, there's still a lot to enjoy in this movie.
It's really enjoyable. As
well as there's a lot of stuff to kind of be like, or kind of cringe at. But, so I would say watch it in theaters. And I would say when you buy it if you want to buy on DVD, I would suggest to wait for the director's cut. Because it's going to be a lot more content on there. And that there might be some more questions that will be answered in that I'm looking forward to. So I would say wait for the director's cut if you were to buy it. I will say this, I don't think that this will ruin DC, because financially I think it will be a success. Mm-hmm. Everyone's going to see it, because I think everyone's just going to be curious to watch this movie, because we've never seen this before. We've never seen Batman fight Superman before.
True.
So financially this will be a success, but story-wise I think it's not a success. But now that we got this movie out of the way, I think that this movie kind of has Star Wars The Force Awakens syndrome, where when Star Wars The Force Awakens came up, it had to introduce an entire new generation to Star Wars, and Luke Skywalker and all that stuff, So that's why we got to see another Death Star. We got to see a couple of other elements that kind of remind us of the old movies. But now that Star Wars The Force Awakens happened, now we can move past that and do new storylines. So now that I think that Batman v Superman finally happened, I think that now we can finally just get out of that, because now it sets up everything. So now we can just move past that, and hopefully that the other directors of DC, that they'll do a better job. Because Zack Snyder, it's true, he is just all style instead of substance. And I don't think he's directing the Justice League movies. Do you think he is? Or is he? Or no? I don't think he is.
I think I read somewhere that he might be.
He might be. But for sure, other directors are taking charge of other movies. So hopefully their perspectives will make the other movies of Green Lantern, Cyborg, Wonder Woman, hopefully those movies will be better than this one. I'm just saying that now we have it out of the way, the next movie I think will really determine how this movie universe will go, which would be Suicide Squad. I have a lot of faith in that movie. So
that one looks fun.
That one looks fun. That one, I was actually looking more forward to that movie than this movie. But like I said before, DC's not done. It's still got a chance against Marvel. Alright guys, so that's our spoiler-free version of this review. And as you can see, there was a lot to talk about. Because this movie, it's going to divide fans, I think. And whether you like it or hate it, there's just so much content in this movie to talk about and for good discussion. So, me and Rob were thinking maybe next time we'll do a spoiler version of this review. And so we can talk about our favorite highlights and go more into detail as to what we didn't like. But, that's our review for right now, guys. What do you guys think? Have you guys seen the movie yet? What are you guys' thoughts on the movie? Did you like the showdown between Batman and Superman? Did you like the Lex Luthor's character, even though I didn't like him, but maybe you guys liked him? I don't know.
He was fine.
What do you guys think of Wonder Woman, Alfred, Lex Luthor? Whatever you guys think, comment below, let us know, and please subscribe to us.